Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Living with Anitude, but it is a special episode today called You Are Not Alone. I have Mike Padurano with us. Hi, Michael. You're on mute.
Hey, everybody. I just was finishing something. Sorry about that.
And we have
Just
Michelle Harwood with us as well today to have a discussion.
Hi,
Hi.
how are you?
So I'm great. I've got the kids occupied, so we'll see how long that lasts. We're here to talk about what you've been talking about, Michael, for your 12 days of Christmas, your 12 hours of 12 days of Christmas routine that you've been on, this mission to allow people to know that they are not alone and that we're here for them and that no one's ever really alone, especially if you have yourself. But so we just wanted to continue that. And luckily, the beautiful and wonderful Michelle joined us, and we can kind of just chat. See how long all of our kids let us talk without interruption or something crazy happening.
That's the key. Our
Yes.
kids, And luckily,
Yes.
we're living by example where
Scotty
we're
Garland, what's
trying
going
to
on?
create something, a legacy for them.
Hi,
So
Lynn. How you doing?
As they grow, they get an understanding of who they really are and love who they are, and they don't have that essence of feeling alone. I think if we socialize our kids that it's okay to go do things by themselves and to love who they are, instead of like you have to have a group mentality. Yes, as human beings, we are herd. We have a herd mentality. We want to group. We want to socialize. But I think we've also socialized ourselves as a society that being alone is a bad thing, and it's a misnomer that we need to shift. Because while I was thinking about this opportunity of talking, there were two things that came to my mind, and it was some of our greatest leaders in history stood for what they believed to be right and true, right? You've got Gandhi, you've got Martin Luther King, you've got all of the ancients, Muhammad Ali, my daughter said. You've got, let's see, the first woman who flew, who is it, Peyton?
Amelia. I'm sorry.
Amelia Earhart. That's one of
I don't know if you were asking me or Peyton, sorry.
Yeah, that's one of Peyton's heroes, is Amelia Earhart. And then you've got the women who were of the suffragette
Harriet Tubman.
life. And what did they do? They stood alone, people. They stood alone. But
And they
nobody
led.
said, well, I'm alone and it's not good and it's not great to do that. And yet great leaders, if you look at them historically, they stood by themselves and they were okay to do that. Why? Because they believed in what they were doing. And sometimes, thanks, KP, thank you. I appreciate your cheering. Love you. Thank you. Yes, he stood for what he wanted. He floated like a butterfly and stung like a bee. That was his way of thinking and being in the sport that he chose to be in. And he stood by himself. He stood out. Thank you, Miss Peyton. And then what we did was we socialized that being alone was not good. But when we look at our leaders, they stood alone, they stood out, and they were okay with that. They were okay to stand up and stand into themselves, and essentially at points in what they did were alone, very alone, but they were okay. And I think if we teach our kids that there's strength and courage in being alone with yourself and love who you are, that we can achieve great goals.
I think that's a great point. It's a great point. I think we do, there's such a, I'm really split. Connection is so important and togetherness is so important, yet self-love really trumps everything. And we're not really taught enough of that.
Well, we're not. I don't think that we are, because we are alone. Well, okay, and here's another side of that. We do need to come together as a group to do great things, to push each other forward, to celebrate each other, to embrace each other, to accept each other, to have a sense of our humanity. We do. But in those moments that we're alone, we need to also celebrate ourselves and in what we do, but also in that thinking, we accept who we are and what we're about. We connect with our soul language and be okay in ourselves, so that when we give to others, we're giving from a place of loving who we are. Because when you look at it in a circle, we're our center circle. And then when we reach out to our family, that's our next circle. And then we've got our extended family, and then we've got our community, where we work, who we work with. All of those things are constrained into the center of what we do. If we are not centered and grounded in who we are and love who we are, we can't completely give to anybody else. And sometimes as we grow into ourselves and live into who we are, we get a sense of feeling uncomfortable. And sometimes that uncomfortableness is about being alone. And it's not. I mean, I understand what being alone is. And often, you know, that uncomfortable feeling as I grow and progress into the life that I want to live. I think that that uncomfortable feeling, I can cop to it, is me being alone. But really it's not. It's just me being uncomfortable in shifting my mindset, my vision of what I want. Hold on one second. And multitasking. And so as we shift our mindset, we feel uncomfortable. And we think that that uncomfortableness has to be filled with somebody or something, but it's just us getting to a place of getting used to our new normal. And it feels bloody horrible sometimes if we make it mean that. But really it's us, you know, legitimately there are people who are terribly alone. But I think if we can coach and teach and embrace them to find the good in themselves, they won't feel so alone. I mean, it's like, you know, ask the audience today. Here's a question I had top of mind for me is, how many people, and I want you to engage in this in the comments below, is here's my question. I want everybody to think of 5 words. That includes you, Annie, you and Michael too. You're on the spot. 5 words that describe who you are. And I want you to think about how quickly top of mind you can get there, or how slowly. And then that's not making it right or wrong. It just means how are you intuitively connected to yourself? So here's the first exercise. And yes, I'm doing this all different and obviously taking over the show a little bit, but I want everybody to think of 5 words that describe who they are. 5 words. And what do you do with those 5 words? So
you want my 5 words?
If we're going to do something like this, we have to figure out how to coach and teach people to see who they are. And one of the ways that I've done intuitively is getting people 5 words to describe who you are. Then what do you do with those 5 words? So what's your 5, Annie?
Oh, I don't want to go first.
I'll go first.
Okay.
I have them, but I don't want to go first.
No, go ahead. Go, Michael.
I'm spiritual. I'm true. I'm honest. I'm ambitious. And I'm courageous.
You're also, now watch this, people, resilient, driven, soul connected, giving, abundantly giving.
You said 5, so I chose 5.
I know, but I'm giving you more.
Accept the compliments, Michael.
This is what I do, is that I hear what you say and I connect with them. Oh, thank you. Confident, unique, kind, happy, and humble. Wow. I like that answer. Bernard said empathetic, creative, humble, passionate, and genuine. You're also understanding, Bernard, and you're also what's the word that came to my mind? Hold on one second. Spontaneous. Okay, thank you, Peyton. What's your show? So the reason why I added to that is because often we can't. Hi, P. I know, because it's not charged enough. You have to find a different activity, sweetheart. So nice comment, Lee. Nothing
I can give
relationship related.
I could give you that. I could give you mine right now also if you want for that answer.
That's what I thought you were originally asking, like mother, sister, friend.
No,
You can
describe
define.
you.
I know 5 adjectives.
What kind of adjectives would you use to describe you? Because we can all wear those hats at any given time. We can wear hats that symbolize what are a part of who we are, but how would we really describe who we are? And if we can get to the core of the description of who we are, we can see who we are. But based on, Michael's that he gave, I can add to that. There's always somebody in our life. When we say that we're not alone, here's the other point, that there's always going to be someone that can add to that list of those 5 adjectives that they see in you. And how do you celebrate that? When we say that we are alone, we're not really alone, because when we get to the core of who we are, we have to find those words that describe who we are and start the thought process. Thank you for those of you who participated in my question. That starts a thought process of knowing who you are at the core and then developing those character traits that you have and harnessing them into your sense of expertise. But also remember, when we think that we're alone, we're not, because there can be many people who can connect with us and show us who we are and what we're about.
Okay, but okay, so let's stop for a second. I want to hear Annie's 5 words.
Yeah.
She commented.
She did, but I would like you to voice them, because in voicing them, you're putting them out
I'm
there.
really bad at this. Can you tell it's like I'm really uncomfortable?
I know,
Yes,
I get it.
so say it.
Passionate, ambitious, empathic, strong, and understanding.
Resilient.
Yes, she is. She's resilient.
Brilliant.
No, I would never say that about myself.
You don't have to. We're adding to it, remember?
Somebody else will give you the gift of doing that, and we have to be in a place, and here's my 3rd point, to receive
Reliable.
Those gifts.
Reliable. All heart.
No matter what.
I have another question. Whoops. Wouldn't that be their perception of us? That may not be always true, right?
It depends on how close the people are to you. If they're people that are close to you, then I think they have a better perception of ourselves than we do at times. If you don't know yourself well enough, then maybe. Michelle, what are your 5 words?
What are my 5 words? Passionate, creative, resilient, giving, kind, understanding,
Strong,
tolerant,
courageous. Strong, courageous, talented, gifted.
Yes.
A miracle.
Literally, I am a miracle.
So miraculous.
Miraculous. We have the grammar police coming in. Thank you, Annie. Grammatically correct should be one for Annie as well.
She's the grammar police.
She's the wordsmith.
She is the wordsmith.
It goes with her brilliance.
Thank you.
Yes, because you would have to be brilliant to be a wordsmith, because that is a defined art, to understand the English language and turn it into something beautiful that is intuitive and resonates to the reader in a way that it opens up a canvas of pictures in the mind. Insightful.
I don't know if Laura's naming hers. Hold on. Yes. No, I need my phone. Thank you very much.
Okay, make sure you wear a jacket, please. Thank you.
We would like to know, why are all these character traits positive? Don't we all have negative ones also?
We do. We do have negative. And how do we dismiss that? How do we embrace the negative?
Don't we all focus on the negative already?
I think that we often embrace the negative more than we embrace the positive. We accept the negative that we have. It's like saying, I love who I am, all of me, every inch from head to toe, good and bad and different. And if we can't love and embrace the positive and the negative parts of ourselves, we're not being very whole and our perception of who we are. And back to what Mike said about, about perception, we follow those who are close to us, who know and understand us. But in the end, we have to understand ourselves the best. And are we seeking, somebody's opinion of ourselves, or are we truly embracing what others see in ourselves that we can't see? Because sometimes we don't. We're blinded by the negative that we experience in life, and we create a narrative that shifts our mindset and our mindset to living into that rather than breaking free from it and creating a place where we embrace ourselves entirely.
Thank you, Laura. I appreciate those adjectives.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I have a habit of spitting out quotes from time to time. It's not intentional, but it slips out.
Well, we're not really alone when we think about it. Or are we? I mean, for some people, their perception might be that they really are alone, and that there is nothing that they represent that the world would want to have. And I think we have to break away from that stigma too of labels, and that we are, okay, there's a phrase that we should be, stop shoulding all over the place, that we should be these things. What we need to be is true to who we are. And if we understand who we are, then we connect with those virtues, those characteristics, that soul language that identifies who we really are and what we do in life. We cannot be defined by the negative experiences. We can only be refined by it. That's my truth. I live into that and believe that wholeheartedly, that I'm not defined by my bad experiences. And you guys have seen it with the Annie-tude show that I did once. And I talked about some of those things. And I decided a long time ago, it wasn't going to define me. It was going to rather refine me and polish my soul. Because I live from the inside out, not the outside in. I don't get defined by what the world says that I need to do, and I define it myself. And it's up to us to want to find that place of helping others to see their light, helping others to find what is glorious and lovely and wonderful about them and celebrating them. We're a herd mentality, so why not bring people along who said that they had to fit in this refined space that makes them feel like they are alone? We have to bring them along and help them find their space and their place to fit into this life.
I have a lot of thoughts. It's very lonely for me when I allow other people's expectations to dictate my actions. It's a very lonely space for me. And then sometimes when I put expectations on myself, I can get really lonely too. Just like you said, I should be here. I should be doing this. I shouldn't be by myself. I should be more productive. All of those things are very loneliness creating for me.
Yeah, they are. And I understand that. It is loneliness creating, because if we don't meet that measure, we withdraw. It's natural for us to withdraw into ourselves, and because we don't measure up. But the only person we have to measure up to is ourselves. If we believe in our core values and principles, whatever they might be, that's the only measure we have. But society says that we should be a size 2, we should make 6 figures, we should be educated, we should do certain things in our career, and that if we do all of those things, we then measure up to society. But I say no, we don't. We measure up to ourselves. Yes, there's certain things we should do, as in kindness, caring, connecting with our humanity. Abso-friggin-lutely. I wholeheartedly agree with that. But we have to break away from these labels and this ideation that, if we don't measure up, therefore we're not enough. But we are. We always were. From the moment that we were born, we were always enough, no matter what. You okay, kids?
Yeah, my dog has zoomies right now. Do you know what zoomies are?
Mm-mm.
He's like running through the house like a buffalo, and Evie's chasing him, and it sounds like there's actually buffaloes in my bedroom, which is next door to my office. So I'm sorry if you hear that. It's just
No, it's okay. It's all
Okay.
right.
Okay.
You're all good. So, I understand that sense of feeling that we feel very alone when we're put upon and expected to follow along.
No one can
Yep.
tell you that you're not successful and
Nobody
not
can
rich.
tell you that you're not successful
No one
because
can
you
tell
have
you
your own
So-
successful benchmarks that you live by.
Hi, Bill. He's a ferocious nitwit.
No, I love that you're a ferocious nitwit and a comedian. Thank you so much for being authentically you. Wow. I love that. Ferocious.
If someone else has a problem, therein lies the problem. They have the problem. Our saboteur comes in and says, please like me, let me do this for you. Then maybe I'll be accepted. No, not giving so much of me anymore. Very understandable. I completely can relate to that as the people pleaser that I am.
I think we all are at some point people pleasers, but we have to break away from that and please ourselves. And I know that, over the last 24 to 48 hours, one of the subjects that's come to top of mind for me is don't take myself for granted. I'm guilty of it. I please everyone else, but how do I please myself? It's really challenging to do that when you grew up watching your mother sacrifice everything you have, so you kind of like lean into that. And then you move country and you realize that there's a whole huge education that you're creating for yourself, and then you teach your mum, go take care of yourself, and you start to do that for yourself as well. It's a learning curve, right, people? So when we think that we're not doing okay, that's because we're shooting, that we should be at this place, we should be doing this thing. Love ourselves enough to have compassion and understanding, and intuitively do those things that you know you need to do for yourself. I'm here to, I know it, I'm a work in progress, and I get it.
No,
I'm great at a lot of things, but there are some things that with myself I'm not, and it's a learned behavior. And guess what? That takes a friggin' lifetime to get through. But if you love yourself and have compassion, you can do it. You can move your mindset away from the things that stop you from being who you want to be. But you have to decide, I want to be an artist. I want to be a copywriter. I want to write a book. What is it that everyone here wants to do, so that they're feeling like they belong to themselves? What matters to you in your life's vision and purpose that gives you a sense of belonging to yourself? And that's the other thing I thought of was, getting to a place of where I belong to me, and then belong somewhere else instead of trying to fill in that gap. I've been.
Thanks, Tim.
Yep. Mental health. Yes, it does. How do we get through that? We shift the stigmas about mental health, that it's not okay to, when I grew up, mental health was like a dirty word. And it was something that you didn't talk about. You didn't say it. It was like hushed whispers, like saying somebody had cancer, and the ladies at the bridge game would be like whispering, oh my gosh, so-and-so's got cancer.
Yeah.
That sort of stigma. And then it's like, now it's like, well, we have to teach each other in society that, there are people in this life and in this space, in this place, that suffer from mental illness, that suffer from behavioral illnesses. I have a daughter. She has what would be considered a mental illness, and it's a behavioral illness. It's called reactive attachment disorder. The schools have to start talking about it. Why? Because there are more children who have it as a result of trauma than they don't. And what, as a society and in education systems, how do we help children like that excel, create, become their best selves?
Mhm.
And as a parent of a child who has a disorder, let me tell you, on the outside, she looks normal. She looks like you've seen her. She looks normal, perfectly normal. But unless when you're with her, unless you understand what it looks like, because remember, mental health is not visible. It's not. It is very hidden, and we judge it because it doesn't look like all the other illnesses that are very visible. When you have a cold, you got a runny nose. When you've got allergies, you've got itchy eyes and nose, and you sneeze a lot, right?
I remember being in my depths of despair and my darkest depression, and this is crazy. I've never even said this out loud. I remember wishing that I had like broken my neck or broken my leg or something, or was in a body cast so that people could see it, so that I could have an excuse, because people didn't understand where I was because I looked totally normal.
Yeah.
And I wanted something to be broken so the outside world could see the inside broken.
Yeah, I understand that. My 10-year-old even does the same thing. Mom, why can't I just have something broken on my body
So people can see.
People would get it. And they don't, because we have associated mental illness as not an illness. It's the phrases we hear are, it's literally in your head, but really, if we understood it, it literally is a condition of our mind. And just because we doesn't see it doesn't mean to say it's not happening and it's not real. I mean, I've survived a serious depression, enough that it lasted 18 months, a serious one, in and out of institutions, mental health institutions, hospitals, to deal with the reality of what that depression was all about. And it was hard to get my family, my children, my older children, and my parents to understand what that looked like. For my mum, it was, oh, you just need to cheer up. Mum, it's not about cheering up.
Yeah.
It was about cheering up.
If I could just cheer up, I would.
I would. It's not about cheering up. It's about not wanting to be here. It's about wanting to check out. It's about not being able to commit to being present to life. It's about it's about getting stuck in a place that's dark and deep, and you don't want to come out from under the rock. And how do we get and in those moments, yes, we are feeling very alone, and it's having an understanding from someone that helps you get out from under that rock. Heaven help me that I don't know how I ever got out from under my rock, other than somebody I loved said something very demeaning to me, and knowing my personality, it was part of my speak. It was, damn it, and that's not really what I said, but I'm being polite. Damn it, I'm going to fix you. I'm going to show you that you don't talk to me like that. Mm-hmm. And I literally willed myself, self-will, to move out of that place of being depressed, because my stubbornness came in, and I wanted to serve this person a piece of humble pie to show them that I would fix them. Granted, that isn't suitable for everybody, and I wouldn't suggest it at all. But in the middle of a moment when I needed somebody the most, that was the language that I heard, unfortunately, because his stigmas around mental health, and he had a history of family that had serious mental health. For him, and it was up close and personal, there wasn't enough understanding for him that if anyone else closer to him suffered from mental health, that was his trigger. That was his way of thinking it through. So we all have our way to adapt, and I'm not suggesting that anybody go do what I did, but that's what worked for me at the time. It took a lot of courage and guts and understanding of myself, of what I was capable of doing and what I wanted to do, and literally it boiled down to self-will. For me, I'm going to show you, I'm going to fix you, that self-will, stubborn ass attitude of mine, which saved my life in the end. When I really think about it, it saved my life. and I found light and love for myself and an understanding of what my mental health condition was really all about. And I really had to take it seriously and start healing. So for those of you who suffer those melodies, my heart goes out to you. And that goes to the next point of, since we're speaking of this, but also goes hand in hand with the subject anyway, is when you get to that place in that space, if you ever are there, go find help. It's okay to ask for help and to receive help. That message is always resoundingly true for me, even now. I'm not saying that I'm completely recovered from depression. I still have bouts of depression. I also know what my triggers are. I also know what happens when I go there and what I can do to help myself when I go there. So, but I also know that I have to follow a plan that I've put in place, that when I see that it's coming, what do I do? How do I help myself? So I've created a plan of talking to certain people on a list so that when I'm feeling that way, I go ask for help. And that's the biggest gift that you can give to yourself is, please go ask for help. Find a way to talk to those that you trust in your special circle of friends. Create a list of people that you trust that know and understand your condition of what you're going through. And I don't like using that word condition, but what they understand what it is that you're dealing with in mental health. And they're not judgmental, and they're not going to deride you or say negative things. They're going to be supportive of you and what you need. And reach out to them. And it's okay to do that. I wished I had learnt that lesson long before I ended up in the hospital with a tube of charcoal down my throat because I swallowed pills. I wished I had understood my illness better, but guess what? That wasn't the plan for life for me. And there's a better one, and that's so that I can sit here and say, look, go ask for help. You know, I'm not trying to be blasé in how I express that. I heartfully say that because I remember what it was like when I didn't ask for help.
I think that's one of the hardest parts. What you're talking about is that sometimes, like, at least for me, and it sounds like you, like it's that you just don't think people will understand.
Yeah. And it's hard. You don't think people will understand. And so I've stopped allowing and just knowing, I've stopped allowing the opinion of what it is I mentioned on and what I did to not get me to a space of asking for help and not reaching out, knowing what it is that I battle with mental health. Yes, I'm okay now, but I still have moments where I just want to crawl under a friggin' rock. But I know that I know and understand my illness enough that it doesn't serve me, and that when I get to that space of wanting to literally do that, or I have an idea of what's next, I go get help before it's too late, before my decision-making process is completely gone, because I know what that looks like when I start to step into that hole and don't want to come back, you know. And each of us, our experience is different. I don't want to say that my experience is the same as anybody else's, because it's not. Do I have understanding and empathy for other people that go through it? Yeah, I sure as hell do. But I know that your experience out there, those who are watching and listening, yours is very different. It is very real, and it's your experience, and you own it.
And no one's going to tell you that that experience is wrong.
No, not for me, or not for anyone else, and they shouldn't, that it's wrong and that what you're doing is wrong. But you have to find those, I guess the message here is that you have to find those key things that help you to receive the help that you need, to get the support that you want, so that you don't feel alone. Because when you look at that mindset of feeling alone, it exponentially can create less empowerment of who you are than good.
The snowball effect.
That snowball effect. And to avoid that, it's always important, in my experience, from going to, outpatient therapy. One of the key things that I came away from doing that, and I'm okay to talk about it, is have a list of people that when you feel that you have that sense of going through a depression and you know what your tags are that help you to mentally understand when it's happening and coming and going, have a list of people that you can call, and chat with and say, hey, look, I'm having a moment. I need your support.
Mhm.
And only you know who you can trust to bring to that space of that circle of special friends, so that you don't feel alone in your struggles, that you don't feel like you can't get through it. Life is increasingly more difficult now than it ever has been at any decade of time. Our whole normal life, what we know it is no longer in existence. We have things that we have to change the way we do. We work from home. We have social distancing. Well, I think it's physical distancing, not social, because the bright side to that, and maybe it's all altruistic for me, but we have created media in order for us to connect with each other. So we have to shift our mindset that there are things possible that we can connect. Sure, there's not a physical component where we get to physically be amidst each other, but we also have a way where we can fill the gap. We can create a bridge, not a gap. We can create a bridge into something else, which is utilizing media to help us to connect with each other. And there's good in that. And how do we create that good? Is we change our mindset and our vision and our purpose of how we utilize those things in our life.
Hey, David.
Hey, David. And by doing that, if you look at positive creates positive, we're going to create a positive bridge and we want to get back positive. We have to put in the effort. We can't limit our thinking that there is, impossible is a word is I'm possible. We're not alone. We are possible. I'm possible. It's not impossible. It's I'm possible. We create possible. We create what we put our thought to. So shifting our mindset to a vision of possible opportunities where we cling to that light and love of those things of who we are, those 5 adjectives that describe us. And if we were to think more on each of those describing adjectives of who we are, what is the sense of emotion that we feel when we think about ourselves in those adjectives? Do we feel hope and light and passion and purpose and courage? Or do we feel, yeah, okay, maybe, sort of, and our negative vibrations are down here?
But I think it's a momentary thing also. I think that can waver back and forth depending on where you're at the moment. The virtual connections are huge and they have the possibility to replace most things. And it's what you allow yourself to believe about it also, right? So if you want to grow and you want to evolve, then you need to be in that uncomfortable space that you've been talking about. And I've been spending a lot of time in that uncomfortable space. And sometimes it makes me literally sick over it, because I'm just not used to it, right? And there's so many levels to this topic, and mental health and feeling alone and being physically alone versus being physically alone and not even feeling alone anymore, right? There's a lot of work that needs to be done to get to that point, because society as it stands doesn't allow us to grow in those directions unless we seek the knowledge ourselves, right? They don't put the knowledge in front of us. They don't give us suggestions in school on how to love ourselves or how to build ourselves up, right? They give us these outside, wow.
To your point.
Yeah. I mean, they give us these outside accolades and these outside validations to seek and always seek and reach for, and at the end of the day, it creates very unhealthy habits. It
Thanks, Bill.
creates habits that when we go into adulthood, we look for outside validation. I mean, I've talked about it ad nauseum at this point, that I seeked outside validation every humanly way possible, and even non-humanly sometimes. I mean, I always needed that validation from somewhere else, and I'm not perfect. I still would like validation in some ways, and I still would like that, seeking approval at times, and I still want to try and fit into to what people need me to be at times. And the reality is I'm enough. I am enough exactly how I am. And I don't need those things. Now I've shifted it to I want some of them, but the ones that don't serve me anymore, I don't want anymore. And I don't need anymore, right? Because I'm trying to evolve and move forward. I'm trying to grow forward, and I'm trying to become a better version of myself so that every day I continue to be my best self, right? And under all circumstances, you're always the best you can be every day. But I want to make those steps so that each day it moves up a little bit, and have enough self-compassion that if I miss a day of something that I do in my routine, it doesn't throw me out of whack to the point that I'm all lost, right? I have self-compassion. Today I needed more sleep, so I let myself sleep. And I never used to do those things. I never used to, if I had a routine, it was rigid. It had to be structured. It had to be in that order. It had to be at that time. And as I'm learning self-compassion, and as I'm learning to love myself, and as I'm learning to just be myself. Hey, Ashley. Yes, we are, and we all are, right? And I think this is a united journey across all platforms, and this is a united journey for each one of us. And we don't talk enough about these things. We talk about leadership, but we don't talk about we don't talk about the steps to get there. We don't talk about, how do you become a leader by inspiring others? Well, you can't inspire others if you're not self-inspired. So how did you become self-inspired, right? So these are the things that we don't talk enough about, is what are the steps to get there? What's the deep work that needs to be done so that we can move into these roles that we would like to be in. And there's so many levels of this, right? Like, everybody talks about entrepreneurship being a lonely journey, and in some ways it is, but if you have yourself, it's not. If you know your core values, it's not. If you live within your core values, then you feel whole, you feel complete, and you can work around it. And then the people that want to be in your life will fit around those core values. You just have to be clear about who you are and what you're looking for, and how you want to be seen by those around you that care about you. And like Michelle said earlier, a lot of times the people around you that you keep really close see you in ways that you can't even see yourself, because we block it. And I think there's a lot to be said for that, because our perception of ourselves is very jaded based on what we've been through.
Yeah, and I think also we have to have a vision of seeing that we're not really alone, and that there are people around us that are there to help us and give voice and understanding and wisdom. But it's up to us to receive that and go look for those messages. I don't think there is anyone that's entirely alone. And I think we said that if there are certain elements that should be in our life, that that we are that if we don't have them, that we're alone. But really, how can I visualize this for you? Okay, it's really simple. If we were truly alone, we wouldn't have friends or family. We would be just a single cell occupant in where, but we're not. We have friends, we have family, and even if our family is all gone, we teach ourselves to go look for what it is that we need to be social, to gather, to come together. So we're not entirely alone unless we choose to live a hermit life where you are absolutely out the middle of nowhere, zero population, just you, a cabin, and the woods. But then again, when you really think of it that way, also, you're not alone, because you have trees, you have wild animals, you have things around you. So we're not ever completely 100% alone. We just either have to choose to see that we have people around us. I go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think there's an important piece that I don't know that anyone's talked about over these days that you've been on different people's shows, Mike, but I also feel like the feeling of loneliness is okay to have sometimes. Like, I think giving yourself permission to feel that way and say, it's okay, I feel lonely today. Like, and allowing is sort of part of the whole journey as well. I don't know
Yeah,
what you guys
I
think.
agree. Yeah, I agree. It is part of that journey that we allow ourselves to feel alone, and it's okay. The other day I felt that way and I'm like, oh yeah, it's okay. It's okay to feel that way. There's nothing wrong with it. And I wasn't about to make myself wrong for feeling alone. It was a
Right,
legitimate
exactly.
feeling.
Making myself wrong is such a big deal for me. Like, what, you shouldn't feel like this. Why do
Yeah,
you feel that way? It's
yeah,
just beating myself up for feeling a way that I feel that's actually okay.
yeah, it's okay to feel alone. I mean, in worldly terms, I'm single. My husband passed away 4 years ago, and I have reason from time to time over that grieving process, which is a lifetime, to feel alone. And I have over time said, I'm not allowed to feel this way because I have to be strong for Peyton, because I have to be present to her life. I wouldn't give myself permission to feel that aloneness that comes with losing somebody. And eventually I had to say, you know what? It's okay. Who made it wrong that we can't feel alone, you know? And I accepted and embraced that there would be times because I'm grieving, and I will for the rest of my life, because when you lose a loved one like that, it's a lifetime of grieving, comes and goes. It's not as intense as that first day, but it is there and I can't ignore it. So I feel alone, you know?
I can't see who that comment is, but because I think you're on private mode, but it is completely spot on. We do not have to pathologize every experience. And also,
No.
Sean mentioned that he couldn't see all the amazing life around him with all the mental noise. And I can completely relate to that as well. It's hard to see what's right in front of you. Sorry, Mike.
The noise is difficult, right? The noise is something that I've always had, and I never understood how to quiet it. And whether it was external noise or internal noise, the internal noise was always worse, right? The external noise I was able to ignore after a while. It's the internal noise that is just destructive, because it can tear us down in a second, right? It can tear us down without us even realizing, what happened in the last second. We could be torn down before we even notice it. And, for me, with my bouts of bipolar and 2 and all that other fun stuff, whether it was the swings, the upswings, the downswings, whatever it was, at some point they all became dangerous to me, whether it was an up or a down. Because well, that's true, right? Alcohol, cocaine, I did heroin, I did crack, I did almost everything. I've tried almost everything once.
It didn't work.
No, none of it worked, right? And just like me trying to die didn't work. I tried that many times. It just didn't work. No matter how many times I tried, I couldn't die. I didn't want to be alive, but I didn't really apparently have a choice. Because no matter how hard I tried, it just didn't work. It didn't stick. Grateful for that today, but at the time I wasn't. It's like, it's such a journey, and this human experience and this life that we're given, whether it's a hard or an easier, or we look at somebody else's and say it's so much easier, it's so much harder. The reality is we're not them. We don't know, right? And unless we take time to actually understand people, put the time in to build those bonds that are closest to us, then we're doing them and ourselves a disservice, because we'll never be able to be there for them in the proper way if we don't understand what that is. We'll never be able to understand what their needs are, just as friendships, as family ships, whatever you want to call it, right? Like, any of these relationships, or even in a relationship, like, if you don't take time to actually understand what the person needs, and it becomes a superficial situation or circumstance, then it's lost. It's already gone, right? There has to be depth to everything that we do as humans, because we're so deep as humans. There's so many levels to being a human being, whether it's, physical, emotional, spiritual, and then there's layers to each one of those. And if you don't understand somebody else around you, then you get lost in the mix. And it takes time to do that. You have to dedicate time to that, right? Like, I mean, let's take Michelle's artwork for example. Her artwork is so beautiful and inspirational and powerful that anyone that sees it or is in a presence of it feels it. And Michelle's artwork is just magical. It lifts people up on a daily basis. Does that mean that as an individual, she doesn't have self doubt at times? She doesn't get triggered at times and have fears about, how she presents it or how she puts it out there? Of course it doesn't. But at the end of the day, the people closest to her are going to push her to no end to do it because she allows people in, right? And certain people. I'm not saying she allows anybody, but that's why it's so important that you really build deep bonds. And these deep bonds do not have to be in person. They just don't. I always thought they did. Before this year, I didn't think I could be in anyone's life if I wasn't in front of their face because I didn't understand my own value. I didn't understand that my biggest value is what comes from my heart and my mind, not the physical presence. I always thought physical presence was the most powerful thing about me. I can carry myself in a way that I command physical presence in front of me, but I never understood that my real power is who I am as an individual. My unique gifts is from my heart and my soul. And that is my real power. And that is my real gift for the world. And how I can express it to everybody to really do deep work and look within. Really find it within themselves and stop trying to fit into what other people want or what other people need. Because when you finally understand what you want and what you need, and you put those lines in the sand, the ones that want to be in your life are going to get closer. Because now you're starting to understand you, which means they get a chance to understand you even better. Yes, 100%.
Yep, agree.
Thanks,
Nice one,
Ash.
Ashley. We do have to take a moment of self-care and create boundaries. That's not limiting belief, people. Creating boundaries healthy boundaries is how we support ourselves and each other based on our principles and our core values. And when we do that, we create a positive space. Lately, I've been thinking about, I think when we think that we're alone, we're talking from a space of competing, not creation. We have to create a space where we love and accept and honor ourselves and care for ourselves rather than competing with ourselves. I mean, sometimes it's a good thing so that you can push yourselves and you're not competing with others. But I think that sometimes that crosses over into other aspects of our lives. And that's that whole shoulding thing. We should do this, we should do that. That's competing. That's a competing space. It's not a creation space where we create. And when we create, there is a manifestation of those things we need, and there's not a scarcity. When you really think about it, there isn't any scarcity in it. And thanks for the shout out about my art, Mike.
Oh, always. I'm one of those people that's going to push you to no end because I believe in you fully.
I know.
I've seen what you can do, and you're magical, and you need to share that gift with the world, and it needs to be out there. And I'm not going to stop prodding you until it is.
I know, and you won't, but you brought up a good point about, do we have moments of lapses of getting into our own opinion and fears? Yep, I had them. I had them with my art because I somehow thought that there's this expectation that art should be like Van Gogh or Monet, and then if I didn't meet that measure, then I wasn't artistic. And lately, it's like, no, that's a load of crap. Art is what you feel. Art is what you create. Art is what you envision it ought to be, and I own it, and it belongs to me, and that's acceptable, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with what I do. But somehow along the path, periodically, and the trigger for me recently was, and I'm not saying this to be a braggart, but just to show you that, our vulnerabilities and the things about our humanness, our weaknesses. I was asked to commission a piece of artwork this weekend, and I was so super excited, but I also, in my excitement, didn't prepare myself for my mindset that would say, what the hell are you doing? Are you really sure about this? You know, you're not Van Gogh, you're not Monet, you're not, and yet those muses are very much in my life. You know, this painting here, this is a Van, oh, that way. This is a Van Gogh muse for me, the way that I painted it, the way I structured.
So, Michelle, stop a second.
What?
You have two people right here that will verify what a commission painting of yours is like and
I
the
know.
impact that it can have. So you are talking to the wrong two people about any fears or insecurities, because I'm going to shove them up your butt.
You're not
Right?
you're not
Because
getting any sympathy for that here.
you're
Oh,
not.
I'm not looking for sympathy.
I'm just
I'm not
kidding.
at all. I'm just
We-
saying that in our
look.
vulnerabilities, even, you know, we have them, and we have to work
It's
through
very
them.
true.
And
She's allowed to have those. You're allowed to have those. It's what you
You're
do.
allowed
With
to have those, but the key point is this: what do you do to move from those spaces and those places of vulnerability when you feel that way? You have to get to the core of believing what you are and stop. Thanks,
And
Ashley.
I'm a fan of Ashley though too. So I'm going to put Ashley on
Me
the
too.
spot. Ashley, I'm going to ditto that one. You need to do that for yourself also, because you're beyond talented as well.
Yeah, she is. She's an incredible artist and businesswoman. I
Good,
agree.
so, good. So hold up the mirror while you're saying that.
Yes,
Look,
I am. I am holding up the mirror. I
So
am.
here's the thing.
Yes,
Here's the
getting
thing.
a shellacking from you, but the point is, really, and I'm going to say it, is that it's what you do with it. It's how you get out of your own way, and you go move your mindset out of that damn opinion and that fear, and just say, look. And I realized that this morning. And for me, it was that moment when I was a kid and I was on what we call the jungle gyms or the monkey bars, what you call them here. And somebody told me that I couldn't do a deep drop. And what that means is you sit with your knees wrapped around a pole and you just drop back and you roll back up onto the top of the bar. Somebody told me I couldn't do that when I was about 9. And I just said, whatever. Well, I didn't say whatever. I says, okay, I can do this. And what did I do? I said, show me how you do it. So they did. And I went, okay, it's my turn. So I did it. I did that death drop. I wasn't scared. I wasn't afraid. I just did it. So long before Nike said just do it, well, Michelle was doing it without even thinking and doing it. So now I have to take that inner child of me and that visualization of that death drop and go, okay, I'm moving that into that space and that place so that when I feel that way, guess what? There's that death drop. I'm going to go just do it. So that's where I'm at, and that's how I'm moving through it. So thank you, Michael Padurano. And
I mean, but we always have these moments, right? We all have them. I still have. Look, with all the progress and all the growth and all the evolutions that I've done over the past 6 to 9 months and whatever it is, right? Like everything that I've done that's made changes and everything that I've been able to let go of, there are still topics in my life that I am so scared and so insecure that I don't ask for what I want because I'm just that scared. And now the difference is I'm aware of it today, so I don't beat myself up for it as much. That I'm still not great at expressing what I need or want. I'm getting better at expressing what I need. I'm getting better at asking, but I'm still not great because I'm still terrified to be rejected. Right, that's something that I'm still working on big time. Right, especially in specific circumstances and situations. Now business, I have no fear. I can care who says no to me. It just doesn't matter to me. I can care less. I'll find somebody else. Right. So it just doesn't matter to me. But when it comes to different circumstances, I still have those insecurities and fears. I still have those. Am I good enough? Am I worth it? And am I worth it for myself to even put myself in a position that I might get a rejection? Right. And if I get that rejection, is it going to crumble me and tear me down so that I lose all the work I've done? So there's still many times in my life that I don't ask what I want to ask. But I'm getting better. The reality is, and what I really want people to focus on from all these days and all these hours, is that there is a way that you can work on yourself and do the work and really do it and really come to solutions for yourself. And life is not going to be perfect. And this process is rigid. It's painful. It's scary. It's terrifying. But if you have anyone around you that is remotely cares about you in any way, they're going to be there by your side through it all. And if you don't, reach out to me because I will help you. I don't
I will
need to
help
know
too.
you. I don't need to know you to want to help you. It's just who I am. I like helping people.
Me too. Hi, Daniel. It's good to
We're out
see
of
you.
time,
Thanks
guys.
for watching.
Yeah. Michael, you need a Porsche. Bill Sherlock says.
Yeah, you do.
I mean, I could wear it as a shoe. It's not my style.
Thank you for everybody that jumped in today, and it was a great conversation. I was touched by it. Thank you, Michelle, for all of your wisdom always and knowledge and care. And I love you both, but I have to go because I have somewhere to be. So I'm sorry.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace, everyone.
Thanks for
You're never
coming.
alone. Thanks, Michael. Bye, Michelle.
Bye.